3 years in, my cardiologist said, you're going to die. Not healthy, too much strain on the heart, high blood pressure. What's the point of working, having money if you die?
Meet Mike Lazerow, the tech founder and New York Times bestselling author who sold his company BFIGGY Media to Salesforce for $745 million.
Mike made his fortune by building one of the most successful social media software companies of all time, helping global brands like Nike, HBO, and Budweiser dominate the early Facebook era.
Being a successful entrepreneur, though, isn't for the faint of heart.
If you're not willing to go into your park and sell your stuff, don't start your company.
In today's episode, Mike opens up about the cost of chasing $1 billion exit and what it truly means to be an entrepreneur.
In order to launch these businesses, you have to have an ego. You are basically asking people to watch you to fail publicly. That fear of failure is what drives a lot of us.
Mike embodies the real spirit of entrepreneurship. He's raw, he's unfiltered, and he's relentless. He shares hard-won lessons on what it takes to build, scale, and sell a company, and traits that every founder must have to survive.
You don't have to do a whole financial model, but just like on the back of a napkin, like, does it make sense? Because if it doesn't make sense on the back of a napkin, it will never work. Zero chance.
It's not every day you get to hear from someone who's built and sold a $745 million company.
Buckle up, it's an hour and 40 of straight game. Let's go. We built BFIGGY Media. We scale it to
sorry to Mike Lazerow. I didn't mean to.
We scale it to $745 million, and you exit. What cost came with building and selling that company?
So that one was almost my life. I have an artificial heart valve. You may not have known. You may have known. And I had my heart rebuilt. Part of it's artificial. And during the course of doing BFIGGY Media, I gained 40 pounds. And I wasn't working out. And Kass and I weren't very connected. Kass is my co-partner. She's the Kass. I'm the and Mike. By the way, it's so nice being here alone. I've done everything with Kass. Thank you.
You know, we were saying the same thing. It's nice to be away from the girlfriends for,
yeah,
for a couple
it's so
days.
Great. Don't tell anyone how happy I am. And we sold it. And then Salesforce at the time was 5,000 people. It went to 20,000 when I was there. Chief Strategy Officer, grew like crazy, $2 billion in revenue to $10 billion. And so did my my body and inflammation. And in 3 years in, my cardiologist said, you're going to die. Like, not healthy, too much strain on the heart, high blood pressure, all this stuff. And I remember the day it happened, I called up Rico, a friend who's a trainer who I still work with. So 11 years later, Rico Wesley saved my life. And I told Marc Benioff that I love the company, which I do. I love Salesforce, still love it. But I need to focus on my life. Like, what's the point of working, having money if you die, right? I have 3 kids, 3 dogs at the time, same wife. I've only had one wife, knock on wood. And then I started talking to other entrepreneurs. They're like, yeah, I feel like shit. Like, I'm not working out. My mental health, like mine, wasn't great. And what we try to do in the book is provide some cheat codes, not only to grow your business, but to grow a life that you can live and that is worth living, which is what a lot of entrepreneurs, I think, it's just difficult. I mean, look at you guys.
Yeah.
I mean, it's so hard.
No, it's super hard. I think that it's one of the most stressful things, especially when I was at a full-time job and you're doing both at the same time. Did you ever have to do that, or you never had to?
I've never had a job.
Never had a job. I had a job for 5 years. I was at the Lakers, and we would do the team thing during the day, and then I'd come home and we'd podcast, and then we would edit videos for our other brands we're working.
You have an incredible reputation among that world. Our head of content, Stephen Ochoa, did it for the Knicks for a while.
Yes, you have Stephen working with you.
And he loves you.
Oh,
he says hi.
Look at that.
Let's
Come
go.
on,
That's
Vic.
awesome.
There's only a few people. Those are great jobs, and
Yeah.
you it's always on. You get your chops.
Mm-hmm.
I'd started a company in college because I was really scared of having a job, like a real job, sitting at a desk. I just knew it wasn't going to work. I got cross eyes. I can't focus. And so I started selling early internet when there were 20 million people on the internet, and then just never looked back.
That's incredible. Do you feel like it would be possible to build BFIGGY Media as big as you did without sacrificing your health? Or do you think that's just something that comes along with building that big of a business?
I think I could have, because I prioritize other things. So I've seen over 200 fish shows. I love live music. I have a lot of hobbies. Everything from making bracelets, I made these bracelets here, to like whatever. I go down rabbit holes, and I just wasn't focused with my time. And by the time, you have kids, We had date nights every Wednesday and Friday and Saturday night, which is a big part of how we kept our relationship intact. I should have prioritized it, and at least prioritize the food part. We were in an enterprise sales world where I'd go out every night, and these were like big meals on the company. You know, our average order size was 60 grand at Buddy Media. People paid $5,000 a month. You know, Unilever and P&G and all these brands. We had 1,000 of them, so we got over 50 million of ARR in 3 years, which was crazy growth. I should have just put it on my calendar. We put everything on our calendar, but the most important things for us, like for our like relationships, health, right? Like that stuff's like, oh, why would I ever schedule that?
I think it's easy to forget about that, but I find, I mean, I toured with a DJ group for 2 years, and that's like you're on the road, you're not sleeping very well. My health at that time was not great, and I noticed that like when you're off, when you're not eating well and your sleep isn't great, you're just not able to bring your best self to work. So I feel like prioritizing the health actually flows into the business. You're able to bring your best self, make better decisions, and probably, you know, do better in business.
Yeah, it would have. I would have burned out if we hadn't sold. I definitely would have burned out. I would have had to stop. Salesforce, I was working just as hard, but it's just different. Like you don't have the existential like risk. So when I could do one more sales meeting, I would do it. I would hop. We had an office in Singapore. I would hop on a plane to travel 19 hours direct flight for one meeting and fly back. Which was
crazy
because in the area, you had like Facebook at the time, 100% penetration. So we got a lot of clients who started with us in Southeast Asia and then moved to the US. And we had, you know, an office there, but there's nothing like the founder and CEO showing up.
What do you think was one of the biggest trade-offs during that period of time? Was it health? Was that the number one thing you think was the trade-off?
Definitely.
Yeah.
I mean, we were super focused. You can only do one thing well. So we didn't have side hustles. We didn't have we weren't investing. It wasn't until later that we invested a little. Like our first deal was Tumblr, which looking back is crazy.
Yeah.
And then we did Facebook and BuzzFeed and some of those early social apps. But it was just hyper focus. And this part that I at least remember now that I gave up was the health.
You mentioned in your book that you saw your dad, as you were growing up, also struggle with like the mental health side of things as he was building his business. Did that ever cross your mind while building Buddy Media, or were you just so focused on the growth?
It's a really good question because writing the book, I've come to terms with that relationship. So it has not been my strongest relationship. I grew up in a divorced household with my mom and my stepfather, who I'm very close with. And my dad had some financial issues and some mental health issues that, you know, he landed in the hospital for 6 weeks and right around my 13th birthday. And at the time, I didn't give him any benefit of the doubt. I didn't really understand it. And he was having major financial issues, like running out of money on a real estate project and turned upside down and made some bad decisions. I've since read about it. And I was too harsh, I think. I basically wrote him off and didn't really think about it. And it wasn't until I really thought about my own mental health in this book that I connected them. And even though things went really well, like we sold our first, UWire, I sold that company. We ended up taking the combined company public, golf.com, $25 million exit, Buddy Media, $1 billion exit. And we've been a part of all these other things. Even when things are going well, it takes a toll. And so I couldn't imagine what he was going through. And it was at a time where men weren't allowed to seek mental health. So if you think about the generation, the post, the Vietnam generation, he was a naval officer. He served, he kind of went on to have home inspection business and building. And I thought he just felt a lot of shame. It was his identity. And we've talked about it. And, part of this is the lessons I learned. It's not my story to tell, but the lessons I learned about not letting these mental health challenges kind of just stack up and then fall over. And you see that again and again with founder suicide and, just depression.
I want to read a passage from the book that we found super interesting as we were going through it. Awesome book, Shoveling Sht. It just came out 2 days ago, right?
I think there's a hole in my chin.
No. Okay, so you had hired Tammy Jersey, who was a business coach, She was like, to come into your business and check out how things were going. And this passage says, Tammy confirmed I was broken, or at least very off my game. I felt like a failed dad, an unreliable husband, an absent friend, and now I had confirmation that I wasn't the business leader I hoped or thought I was. On the outside, I was crushing it. Inside, I was an emotional mess. I wanted to run away from it all. Could you take us back to when Tammy had came into your business and you guys are killing it? I mean, you're making tons of money. You guys are doing awesome. And you have to hear this from like an outside source. What does that mean for you as a leader at that time to course correct and get it headed back in the direction that you knew you wanted it to go?
Yeah, so it's one of the most powerful things that I've ever experienced business-wise. I think a lot of us, especially men, aren't very self-aware. And I was getting in the way of the management team. So I'd go talk to the engineers. I love engineers. Mm-hmm. And we'd just be jamming like, oh, wouldn't it be cool? Wouldn't it be? And in their mind, it was like, oh, Laz thinks that's cool. I'm going to build it. And then my head of technology would be like, dude, what the fuck? Like we changed the roadmap because you spoke to an engineer. Like you can't do that on the sales side. And so Kass, who's an incredible operator, it's a very difficult thing. How do you tell like your husband, co-founder, this feedback? So she, to her credit, got a professional, Tammy, and she did a 360 review. And she spoke to all of my direct reports. And I was both distracting and distracted. So I wasn't focused. I was not nice in a lot of meetings where we just like, we're not passive aggressive. And there's an issue, we get it on the table. Not in a mean way, but I wasn't listening. And what came back is everything you don't want in a leader. So someone who's not listening, who's getting in the way, who's changing decisions, who's, basically ensuring everyone's not doing their best work. And I didn't know how to operate because I'd never run a company with 500 people. Like I didn't know how to prioritize my time. I didn't know how to make decisions. And so I let a lot of my fears, anxiety, doubts spill out. And the most important thing I did was start to listen. I don't think I listened before then. I would come into meetings. We didn't have a lot of meetings, one a week, because we hate meetings. We're just like, let's get everyone on the same page and then fucking get out of here and do work. And the meeting was me trying to get my way like a drunk baby, right? And since then, it doesn't sound like it on this podcast, but I listen a lot more and I talk. I try to kind of sit in their shoes. And it was just a really powerful experience, which I think about often.
Is listening the number one trait that makes a good leader?
It's up there. Yeah. I mean, I think listening, transparency. If you are not trusted by your team, forget about it. There's nothing that you can do to succeed. That relationship between you and your team, you and your investors, you and your customers, it's all about trust, transparency. And so a lot of entrepreneurs don't want to have the hard conversation. They don't want to lay off people. They don't want to kind of own their shit, right? And, listening's a part of that.
Do you have any advice for founders if they need to have difficult conversations with their employees or, their board or just anyone that's working with them?
Not only do we have advice, we have scripts.
Okay, great.
So it's very hard to lay people off for the first time. It's very hard to admit you're running out of money, right? And so it's all about getting, don't bury the lead, right? Figgy, today's your last day. We appreciate everything you've done. We don't think you're a fit because what we need right now is someone to make shoes for six-toed women. You've never made shoes. Apologize for even hiring you. So you kind of get like those types of conversations of like,
I wish I had this convo like 6 months ago.
But it's those conversations where like, don't shy away.
Yeah.
And
God, it's so hard.
Oh, not only is it hard, another story in the book
this one is so funny.
Is like, I'm managing sales. Like I do sales, product. I'm like the public person. I don't know why, because Kass is smarter, better speaker, better looking. But I was the one, I think she had to stay more kind of with the kids and, she was operating the company, so she had to be in. And so at golf.com, our first sales hire, I was managing, and for whatever reason, he just wasn't selling. It was early internet. I don't think it was his fault. So Cassie, you got to get rid of this guy. Like he's cost us $100,000 a year. We're running out of money. No problem. And so I go in, and let's just say that he made some incredible arguments. And he got a raise and a bigger title. And I came out and Kass like, how'd it go? I'm like, it was awesome. Like it was like, he really is with it. He made some arguments of like why he hasn't sold, which are so amazing. And so I think he should be chief revenue officer now. And I gave him a little extra money just to keep him motivated. And Kass is like, you're the worst human being I've ever met. Like literally. And from that day forward, she takes the lead on all the layoffs.
There you go.
I'm conflict adverse. I can do it. I've done it like with her a few times, but it's just all about empathy and making sure that how they leave the company or how you deliver the news keeps them as an advocate, right? Like it's a small world. We don't, just because it didn't work at this job doesn't mean that you're going to be homeless. Right? Like there are plenty of other jobs that maybe are better.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we had to have a difficult conversation not too long ago, and we don't like conflict.
Not
and
big
so
conflict, guys. Small conflict.
when
guys.
we sat down,
I'm with you, dude.
Yeah,
like I hate it.
we were like looking at each other, being like, "Who's gonna
Who's
say
gonna bring
it?"
this up, man? Someone's gotta bring it up.
We were like, "Great meeting. All right. Like anything else we should talk about? Like I don't know."
And the worst is when like, you know, you have a hard conversation and you just kind of like, you know, shooting the shit.
Yeah.
You're kind of trying a way to bring it up.
Yes.
And so what we've learned is just like, don't shine the turn. Just like get it on the table, get the elephant in the room, tell them the reason that you want to have the, and a lot of times I basically start it with, listen, there's nothing that I'm about to say that is great. I'm not happy about it. It's going to be a tough conversation, but it's one I want to have. So then they're like, okay, I got to focus, got to get off my phone and just lay it out, right? And practice. Like if I practice things a few times, especially that first line, and I used to be a drummer and it was all about like, can't miss when I'm supposed to come in, right? So like get that first, like just get started right and the rest takes care of itself. And less is more. Don't feel like you have to fill up the conversation with like, you know, words. Silence is a statement.
God, it makes so much sense. What do you feel like was a lot of the fuel you were running on in the very beginning of the Buddy Media days with Kass? Like, what do you think was that fuel? Was it, you know, I know a lot of people say a huge motivation for them is like proving people wrong, or is it just super ambition that you two were like, we want to build this massive thing together and show it off to the world?
So we were now serial entrepreneurs. I had a company in college and we started, which that was the one that went public. We started golf.com together. And so we're now living in New York. And we sold for $25 million, but we had to buy back golf.com because the company we had originally sold it to went into bankruptcy, all this stuff. So we only owned like, I don't know, 20% of it. So like after taxes, we made like, I don't know, $2 or $3 million, which is more money I ever thought I'd make, for the record, growing up in the suburbs of DC. And to kind of entrepreneurs who aren't in kind of like this tech world, they're real entrepreneurs, right? Like they don't have a safety net. So we moved to New York and we're like, holy shit, fuck, this place is expensive. Our first rent was $11,000 a month. And I was like, and we have 2 kids, we want to have another. So I'm like, we got to get back on the horse. Like we got to figure. And so I was constantly thinking about ideas. Viv, our third, is born. I'm in the waiting room and Marc launches the platform and invites the world's developers to build social apps on top of Facebook. At the time, Facebook was loved. They hadn't ruined democracy yet or our mental health. They didn't own Instagram or WhatsApp, but there's like connecting people on one platform, tag your friends. It was cute, maybe not so cute anymore. Like we know how it's played out. And I went down the biggest rabbit hole of my life, which I do. Like I went down the internet rabbit hole. I went down social media. I've gone down crypto. I've gone down AI. And very few times in your life are you given like this generational change. Like if you're an AI developer right now, there are no better ones because it's new, right? Like it's a new thing. So you can dominate if you're 21 years old. And I love that. Like if you want to be a partner of a law firm, it's not going to happen. Like work 20 years, doctor, all this stuff. But like in this innovation world, or even with being an entrepreneur in your local town, just do it, right? And so for me, we were powered, to answer your question, we were powered really by the excitement of what happens when the internet goes from a single player to a multiplayer friend environment. And we were surrounded by the smartest people we knew. Not only Gary, so Gary's first office was in our office. It's how we became like family. But I look at Jonah Peretti, who was really kind of experimenting with virality at BuzzFeed, doing the stuff with like the Nike sweatshop on the Nike ID shoes, right? And how do you get stuff viral, which is what you guys have really talked a lot about. Love the last episode. People haven't read about or listened to how to do YouTube right now. And it was just exciting. It was like every day it was new, and we'd talk to brands. They'd be like, yeah, we got to move from TV to like this new stream-based world. And I'd talk to, like, I spent time with Zuck and Sheryl Sandberg, and they weren't focused on advertising. I remember one of the last meetings I had with Zuck, he said, yeah, just keep doing your brand stuff. Just keep doing that, like whatever that is, because we were onboarding companies to their platform. And when companies would call up Facebook and say, hey, we need help, they'd be like, oh, call Mike. So I spent a lot of time walking the floors of their office, which was just exciting.
What did you notice about those early days of Facebook when you were walking those floors?
It was exciting. I mean, it was all in person. There's no hybrid. It was smart, like the smartest people. They were hiring people that were just smarter. A lot of people I'm still friends with, like Kevin Colleran from Slow Ventures and Josh Ron from Oceans. And, look at any company right now, and it like goes back to Facebook, Instagram, right? Whether it's like OpenAI or, TikTok even.
That was a funny story with the Instagram when you guys were at South by Southwest, and Gary's like, they're talking about, would you ever sell Instagram to the founder? And he's like, no, there's not even a question. And Mike was talking to Gary, and he's like, everything has a price, man. Yeah. And then they ended up selling.
Well, no, and the funny thing is, I didn't put this in the book, but at the time, Travis, who was in that room, he was okay with selling. Travis Kalanick, who was launching at South by Southwest at the time, launching Uber in Austin. He's very practical. He went on to build, obviously, this and Instagram today. Like, Kevin did great. Kevin and Mike made a lot of money, 11-person company, sold it for $1 billion. That Facebook stock has gone crazy. But what's Instagram worth today if it's an independent company? $500 billion?
I wonder if Instagram gets to the point it is now, though, if it's not bought by Facebook.
It was so interesting because I feel like during that time period, Instagram they were stealing everything. I mean, Snap had stories, right?
Sure.
And then we'd wake up and it'd have stories, and we'd be like, I remember there was a period of time actually where every single person said, I will not be posting here, follow my Snapchat. Do you remember that?
Yes.
They would post their thing and be like, I'm not posting on Instagram stories, and now look at what it is today. I feel like there's always that initial like hesitation of adopting something, and they were very against stories. I remember that so vividly. It would just be like a black square, and it'd say, add my Snapchat.
Well, the dirty little secret is that every company was dependent on Facebook for growth, right? So getting friends to like recommend an app or to do something in an app to trigger an app to user notification. And because of that, they had a front row seat to every app. So they could see what apps were taken off at any given time, which was interesting.
Yeah, you could see who's spending the most on your platform to acquire somebody.
I'm curious to know, you bring up Travis, you bring up Zuck, you bring up Gary, you've been around some of these incredible entrepreneurs. Is there a trait you see in them that's maybe similar in all of these high net worth, very successful entrepreneurs?
It's the same trait. Everyone's just a dude or a woman, right? Like, they're just regular people. And I think what separates them is hard work, first of all. Like, they're willing to do what it takes. I saw firsthand, because Gary was in our office, how hard he worked to get customers. I remember he's like, Laz, we got to go pitch the NHL. I'm like, okay. So we went, did a joint pitch. They bought it. They did the services. Our software is what was used. And same thing with all of those people. Kevin launched as Bourbon. Instagram wasn't Instagram. It was a gamified Foursquare. And it was one of the worst apps you've ever used. I used it. And you would check into a location, you would get points, and points were redeemable for like bullshit
Was
stuff.
it for food stuff in the beginning, right?
Everything, like restaurants. Everything. And one of the things you did is when you checked in, you could take a picture. He had these incredible filters because he was a photographer. That's what people loved, and including myself. I remember those filters. I was like, I just want that.
Yeah.
He stripped everything down, and he was not going to quit. He was just like, there's no get. Now, hard work isn't enough, right? You have to focus. Everyone I've mentioned really hyper-focused. A lot of entrepreneurs, especially today, they try to do everything and they get nothing done, which is huge. And then the third is we don't believe ego is a bad thing. In order to launch these businesses, you have to have an ego. You are basically asking people to watch you to fail publicly, right? You guys are out on a limb. You guys create tons of content. People vote with their attention every day. That fear of failure is what drives a lot of us. Like, oh my God, like we raised $100 million at Buddy Media. If this thing goes under, I'm the worst person ever. Not that I'm the worst entrepreneur, you internalize it. It's that shame. There's a difference between like behavior and who you are. And if we had failed at Buddy Media, yeah, maybe we weren't the best entrepreneur or what we thought in our mind. Didn't mean we're bad people, but entrepreneurs kind of feel that, oh man, it's all wrapped up. Like I'm an awful person if I fail. And I think that ego is something that has to drive you and you have to keep in check, which is hard. And so there's all these like dichotomies and dialectics and being an entrepreneur of like holding two things that are, it seems at odds with each other, right? And what the book's about, it's like being an entrepreneur is awful. It's suffering, it's miserable, it's missing your plane, having to get a new plane, and get in at 3 a.m. and like all the shit we do, right? And there's nothing you'd rather do.
Yeah.
So it is awful and fucking awesome.
Yeah.
And the people who are blessed with the opportunity to do it are the people who find their purpose and passion and learn to love it. Learn to love the suffering. Like people are like, why are you working so hard on this book? Like, why are you making all the ass? Why are you doing all the speaking? Why are you doing all the podcasts? Why are you doing all the Instagram lives? It's what we do. Like we shovel. And if we're not going to shovel shit for a book called Shoveling Sht, a love story, when do we shovel shit? It's like the most personal project. And whatever you guys do, you put in all of your effort. The key is to decide whether or not you want it on your plate. And so for Kass and me, if it's on our plate, we're like balls to the wall. We're like, there's no losing. Kass is more motivated by not losing than, the idea of winning.
What goes into actually getting a book out to the world? So you guys come up with the idea, you're like, we're going to do Shoveling Sht, a love story about the entrepreneurship path. Then what happens? All this other work behind the scenes that no one sees.
Yeah, so I went down the rabbit hole of books. I don't read a lot of books. Like I listen to some, I buy a lot. But usually I'm like, yeah, it's fine.
Do you do YouTube at all? Or
Tons of YouTube, like a lot of audiobooks, a lot of podcasts. I don't sit in traffic. I live in New York City, which is fine, but I don't have a lot of time. So I block time to think and listen, which is a luxury, right, in my life now. And we just interviewed everyone we respect, and everyone from like Will Guidara, who wrote one of my favorite books, Unreasonable Hospitality, to Gary, obviously, who's been an incredible friend and partner here. And we realized the publisher doesn't matter. We wanted to own the rights to it. It's our story, right? So we had the opportunity to sell it for like a small little advance, but then they would have owned it. So now we own all the rights. We're doing like audiobooks in 100 countries and all this stuff. The biggest lesson we learned is that there is no infrastructure to sell books. So when you write a book, you are also the CMO of your book. These publishing companies are not equipped to market in the world. Our publisher actually has learned a lot from what we've done, like the live streams, how we make the book bundles. We love book bundles.
And what does that mean exactly?
Meaning like buy 50 and you get 30 minutes with us.
Oh,
so
okay.
If you go to shoveling.com, like they're still live, I think. It's kind of all of these bundles. We just had an epic like New York Stock Exchange event, like at the exchange. One of the bundles for National Shovel Day with Gary Vee, celebration of entrepreneurs, was dinner with me, Kass, Gary at Fly Fish Club. It went for $9,000. There were only 8 seats, but every 9 grand sold 300 books, right? So it's kind of like you have to think about this not as the book, but a platform, and you have to make it worthwhile. And the most important thing we've seen is that people want access to us because they want to pitch us, they want advice. Just like if you guys wrote a book, they'll want access, right? And so don't write a book unless you're willing to market it. We spent 3 months writing it, 15 months marketing it. People are like, well, why has it come out in a year and a half? Because we want to sell a fuck ton of books. We gotta make ass. Hey, I need you to buy 20 books. Can you give them to your founders if you're a VC? I'd love to speak at your event. I'll speak if you buy 50 books, right? So it's like those types of asks, which are very uncomfortable for us, but I think will be the difference between us getting out there and not. We don't know yet. It just came out.
I love that you guys went to Central Park though, and just you're doing different activations that I haven't seen for a book. Like I didn't know that people would go and do something in Central Park. And
people
like,
don't.
Yeah, you're allowing entrepreneurs to just walk up to you. Like, that is so fun.
It was so cool. Like, so we went into Central Park, and part of this is I've always said, if you're not willing to go to your local park and sell your product, whether you're Liquid Death, whether you're Van Leeuwen's Ice Cream, I was just with the founder there. He bought a truck off of eBay and just started selling his ice cream, right? Wow. If you're not willing to go into your park and sell your stuff, like, don't start your company. And Kass didn't love the idea, but I was like, listen, we're setting up a table. We're going into Central Park, and we're going to meet entrepreneurs. And we're going to talk about their business and sell the book. And so we created a sign, free entrepreneur advice. And it was cool, like recent graduates coming up, hey. And when you're trying to engage with people in public, they think you're going to kill them. And once they realize you're not going to kill them, in at least New York City, they're friendly. But at first, they're just like, I'm going to do everything to stay away from this homeless person. And we're like dressed like this. Like, we're not really dressed, right? And we had great conversations. And one conversation, these young guys were engaging. They're like, oh, what have you done? Like, and we said a few. And then I just made a comment. Yeah, we've had about $10 billion worth of exits. He was like, what? He's like, why are you here? I'm like, because we got a book to sell. And it's $20 each. We need a lot of them sold. And there are 14 million people who walk through the park. So why not get like 0.00001% of them to like buy? But you have to be creative. Now, did we do that for the video content? Yes, like you saw it. Did we do it because it was fun, for me at least? Yes. And, Kass, like, we're very different. So I'm there like, hey, who's the entrepreneur? People are walking by. I'm like, you're an entrepreneur. And they're like, fucking, who's this drunk, crazy guy? And Kass would be like, tone it down a little. Like, but it was fun. Like, if you don't do,
I'm having a good time.
If you don't do things and have fun and smile, like, why do them? Like, life is hard enough.
You brought up that you guys did an event at the New York Stock Exchange. Something you mentioned in the book is that when Facebook IPO'd, your guys' stock went down quite a bit, but you said that Marc Benioff's, he still honored the initial terms of like the contract. Can you talk about that and how that has affected the way you've moved in business since then? Yeah,
really powerful experience. We hadn't signed our deal yet, but the week before, I was at Marc Benioff's townhouse negotiating the deal. When Marc Benioff calls, you go. And I basically modeled all of Buddy Media off his book. Like, he has a book about how he grew his business. And so I'd built the relationship with Salesforce people, Ryan Ate and John Samorjai, and in their venture business. And, Ryan's like, Marc would just like to meet you, which I kind of know what that means. And so I go to his townhouse and I show him the technology. He loves it. He's very excited. Like, he loves technology. And we basically negotiated the deal. And he's like, I can't go anymore. Like, I'm already overpaying. Don't ask for another dollar. I wasn't working with a banker. It was just like two people talking. And it got through my board, obviously, because it was like a shit ton of money and life-changing for me. But also, like, it was the first real exit for Graycroft, which is a big New York firm. So it returned their whole fund. And a lot of these other venture capitalists who were young, like, it like made them look good. Facebook goes public the following week. the stock goes down 50% in one day, and we are dependent on Facebook.
And why do you think it dropped 50%? Were people just so weary of?
It was overhyped.
Facebook was overhyped at the time?
Well, it was underhyped, fast forward, but at the time there was so much hype, and there was this idea that they don't have a mobile strategy, which is so funny right now.
Yeah.
Because it's just mobile. And it's a good story about focus, because from that day forward, Marc refused to see any demos that weren't on the phone. Because don't forget, like, the iPhone came out in 2007. So it's not like at this point, this is 2011, 12, like iPhone apps are still new.
Yeah.
And once they got mobile, which is why they bought Instagram, like they're off to the races. And so the reason it went down is there's more supply than demand, but eventually it went back up. But that weekend, we were very worried. I would have pulled out of the deal probably if I was Marc. How do you tell because he was a $16 billion business. He's now $300 billion. He was paying, on paper $800 million, but it was really $1 billion deal all in. So he's giving like 5% of his business to these schmucks in New York just to get Facebook and Instagram and early YouTube and Twitter marketing right. Because he wanted the marketing cloud and start there versus like traditional advertising. And he called me first of all, I had Ron Conway was an investor who's like a legendary investor in Silicon Valley. He called Marc just to like feel him out. And Marc knew that I was a little nervous. He called on Sunday night.
And the deal was supposed to go through on Monday.
We're supposed to sign. And he goes, listen, I gave you my word. We have a deal. I want you working at this company. I want you to be a partner. I need more entrepreneurs here. We need entrepreneurial spirit. You have nothing to worry about. And I was like, are you sure? Like,
you're not fucking with me, right?
Like, is this Marc? Like, can you send me a picture? Like, and from that, the lesson was do the right thing. Mm-hmm. It was the right thing to do, even though it was hard for him business-wise. We then would go on to see him do tons of like what we call miracles, but the right thing. Like, we were having issues with our kids' health. Kass, one of us needed to go back, but it was clearly going to be Kass. Salesforce doesn't need another operator. And I went to talk to him. And I said, listen, one of us has to get back. Kass has to. She had all this stock that was like revesting because he didn't know how to keep us there. So we kind of revested like a third of what we were going to get. And he said, no problem. Like, we'll take care of her vesting. She'll earn everything. Like, as long as you're focused, that's all I need.
And in the book, she said that her cortisol levels were 5x what a normal person was.
She had a lot of health issues.
Right around the cell. During that time period, were you guys trying to fix the mental health stuff that you were both dealing with, or just like the problems that were coming? Or did you feel like it was so demanding?
We didn't really think about it.
Yeah.
Because it was just whirlwind. And I remember the day we kind of spoke to the company at a hotel in Soho where our office was. We kind of got this huge ballroom. And
this is the Buddy Media Group, or this is Salesforce?
Well, this is Buddy Media.
Okay.
And it was like a celebration. We had a company meeting and then a party afterward. And like, our friend Seth Myers did like this stand-up bit, which brought the house down. And Kass and I both felt like really numb. Like, yes, we'd done it. And all of a sudden this money was wired into our accounts. But we never really started because of the money. We didn't know how to process like that type of money. And it was over time that we realized, we needed to get better. It wasn't until 3 or 4 years later that my cardiologist said what he said, which is like, you're going to die. Like, look at all the markers of death.
So you still had to go back into Salesforce, help continue to grow Buddy Media.
Oh yeah, I gave him a 3-year commitment, which I wanted to do. I love Salesforce.
You wanted to help Marc and really build this thing to the next level.
I mean, it's a startup. Like at the time, it's like number 1 CRM, number 1 service, getting into marketing. I'm 34. I don't want to do another company. Pay is good. The people are A players. And I spent 3.5 years there until like I just realized I didn't have to. There are a lot of people like we recognize that we're very fortunate, right? Born in the US, our parents weren't wealthy, but they had enough money for education. So like upper middle class, comfortable, didn't feel like we were poor, educated at Northwestern. Like a lot of people don't have the ability to make the decision to go home, but like it felt like if I hadn't made that decision, my life could have turned out differently.
Yeah. How did that chapter affect your relationship with Kass? Not only as co-founders, but partners and parents.
So when I was at Salesforce, I think it was fine. And when I say fine, I traveled a lot, but we were still communicating. It was the first time we hadn't worked together. We started a company when we were dating. So this is the first time we're not like working together. What really was hard is after I left Salesforce and I had major identity issues. I didn't know what to tell people. I have all these hobbies. One was like, I love painting. Kass like got me a painting studio as a present, like rented it, which is hard in New York City to like rent a studio. And I realized I was bad, but I loved it. So it's like a hobby. Stuff you're bad at, but you love, it's hobbies.
Brain has a lot of those.
Yeah.
I knew that was coming.
And so basically I was kind of miserable personally. Like I didn't have any direction. We did like 50 investments, some of them great, most of them shitty. And it wasn't until we came to terms like, what do we do for a living? We shovel shit. And just like Bernese Mountain Dogs need to work, entrepreneurs need to shovel shit. And so what shit do we want to shovel? Started a venture firm, 400 million assets under management. We have a private equity firm. We're buying cash flow businesses. We have what seems like a job, Shoveling Sht, a love story, trying to sell this. And we're trying to figure out what we do next. And I think venture capital's broken. So I can't see us building the next great venture capital firm.
Why do you think it's broken?
Too much money chasing too few deals. And we are going into the golden age of entrepreneurship because of the tools that are available and the ability to solve problems personally and for others that are so easy. I mean, I just went into Lovable. I'm like, build me a social media dashboard. Okay, what's your GitHub account? You put it in. What's your API keys, right? Like all of a sudden business people can build software. And so business people can eat the world with software. And all the other businesses can be more productive. So we're going to open up 10 pizza places.
Oh, so I read that in the book.
I love pizza.
Yeah, you love pizza.
What's your favorite slice in the city?
That's a good question. Slice would probably be Little Italy's eggplant parm slice. And there are a few Little Italy's. We have one on 72nd Street. Pie, probably, I mean, there's so many.
Yeah.
There's so many.
We had a good one yesterday.
Which one?
What was it called?
Oh, I'm blanking on
It was
the
a
name.
9-3 on Dave Portnoy's little pizza app. It was good.
Yeah.
And we went and had it with Babin. He was like, this is pretty good
But they're
pizza.
great. They're great businesses.
Yeah.
So you could open up one for $250,000. A bad pizza place does $1 million a year.
Wow.
30% margins. And if you do a bunch of them, you could have a level of management across all of them. And maybe, like, I want to learn how to make better pizza. I have a uni oven, but
I want one so bad.
they're the best.
You need to get one. You've talked about
If you're creative, they're the best.
Yeah, you've talked about it for a while.
I love cooking,
Yeah.
and
Big cooking guy.
I think I need to get into making pizzas.
I could see you guys doing a cooking show.
I feel like we could maybe. I wouldn't be the cook guy. I could be the taster.
Yeah, you could be like my little sushi.
I could be your B
That's
guy.
your only job,
I just
just
taste.
taste.
I just
Oh,
taste.
it's really
this
good.
is fantastic.
Yeah, cooking with coasters. Come on.
Yeah, exactly.
I could see that. Like I'm dead serious.
Bought into it, dude. That is so funny.
Especially for a world of like these young men don't know to cook. I have two sons who are going into the world. One a senior in college next year, the other who just graduated. And like they're not going to get their recipes from Julia Childs. So who are they going to get it from?
Yeah.
You guys.
Yeah.
Come on, dude.
Let's
go.
There's a guy that I went to school with. Shout out Chef Donnie. He works with Barstool now, but we were in the same fraternity, and he's gone on to create a whole career out of being a chef and crushing it on content. So
Food's the best.
awesome.
I don't
Yeah.
know if you know Francis Dillon, or Francis Ellis,
No, I don't know
from
Francis.
Barstool. He eats ridiculous things at his desk. And so he'll just
Yes.
yeah. I've
just like
seen
the whole lobster.
Yeah,
whole lobster.
The lobster, yeah.
like
yeah.
and he's great dude who's just like, I'm going to buy a whole chicken and crush this chicken. I'm going to get like a lobster and like, it's an open seating environment. So he tries to get the smelliest food. But like food is like, that's a big cat. Over 50% of the people know about food.
Yeah.
I think that I couldn't stop everything. I'd have to do what you're doing with this. Like I wouldn't be able to sit still, I don't think. It's just like not
But I don't think
in our DNA.
I don't think anyone can.
No, I don't think you're supposed to do
as
that.
As humans, you need
you gotta have something
to
to be working on.
Yeah.
Whether it's a fitness thing that you're doing, whether it's a book, whether it's
The identity thing though is interesting. I also feel like you hear that with parents, like stay-at-home parents. Once you're empty nesters, once your kids go off to college and they move out, it's like my whole identity was raising these kids, and now they're not here. They're taking care of themselves. Like, who am I as a person?
So that's a huge thing.
Yeah.
So Kass and I are empty nesters in the fall. And there are two types of people. There are people who are super excited and people who are scared. We are so excited. Because what we realize is we can't fire our kids. But they can move on at a certain point. And
this isn't really the right fit, you know?
Yeah, well, Kass many times been like, fuck, I want to fire that one. But you can't. You have to like show up and like, parent and keep those like boundaries up. A lot of our friends who their kids are going, like they may love their spouse, but they don't like them. And so it's all about the kids. It's like, So if you don't build those relationships now, whether you're entrepreneur or whatever, it's gonna decay, and you're not gonna have a great life when what you're working on together, the kids, when you sell them, so to speak, when you exit.
I want to transition to Go Gauge, because you have this great framework that you lay out with six elements that you look for when you're evaluating a company. So can you tell us what Go Gauge is and what you look for when you're investing in a company?
Yes, and the reason why this is so important is really not for investing, even though it is important for us. It's, as an entrepreneur, especially one with no money, which we were, your time is your most valuable asset. So spend the time figuring out, is this something worthy of my time? So would I invest $1 of my time into this? And that's where it started for us. And it just comes down to these 6 kind of but simple things, which is, what's the product? Why is it different? What's the market size? Which we use like number of customers. Like, we were in the golf business and we went back and looked at the deck and we said it was an $80 billion market. Now we only had a $25 million exit, partly because we didn't own golf courses. So that's 60 billion of the 80 billion. So think about like how many customers and what are they gonna pay? What most entrepreneurs don't think about is sales and marketing. Build it and they will come is not a strategy. That's just hope. That's just deluding yourself. We added one after we invested in this company, Liquid Death, which we call distribution and operations. It's how do you get your product to your customer? If we had known how hard that was in this business, there's a good chance we wouldn't have done it. We've never done another one because this is a company that started with water. It took Austrian spring water, put it into a can in Austria, put it on a bus to get to a train, to get to a boat, to get to another bus, to get to another train, and it was like, oh man, this is not going to work. They figured it out. They onshored their production
to the United States.
Yeah. So that distribution thing and operations we really dive into. And then the last one is, you don't have to do a whole financial model, but just like on the back of a napkin, like, does it make sense? Because if it doesn't make sense on the back of a napkin, it will never work. Zero chance. Like zero chance it's going to work in the real world if it doesn't work on a piece of paper or a spreadsheet. So it doesn't have to be like Goldman Sachs financial analysis, but it's like, okay, what's going to cost to build it? What are you selling it for? What's left over? Can you support the organization? And if it's turned upside down, like we've seen so many companies that had negative unit economics. And this whole strategy of like, oh, we'll build it, we'll like build the audience, and then we'll figure out a way to monetize it. And a lot of those businesses just haven't worked.
I have a question with like a company like Uber. so they go into the red a ton, right? Like they're just burning tons of money trying to get the software to be amazing, to get, amazing people to build it. If you were like investing, did you invest in Uber at all?
Are you trying to ruin my day?
No. Did you invest?
Oh, did you like have a chance like Gary?
So Gary did it, and I said I can't.
No.
Yeah.
Okay.
I have to leave now.
Oh man.
How does?
Hey, well, if it makes you feel any better,
we
also didn't
Oh, you did
invest
it?
in
No,
Nice.
it was a close second. Yeah, it was a close second. How does that work though when they're trying to pitch people to invest in? They're like, we're going to be in the red for 6 years.
Yeah. So
like, what does that look like? I'm just curious.
So for Uber, I didn't invest because I was just so busy, and I was just like, I can't. Like, I don't know. It may work, may not, but how big's that going to be? Big. And it was the same. It was also at South by Southwest when I stalked Sean Rad about Tinder. First time I saw Tinder, I was like, whoa, that's going to be big. And so, wait, what's the question again?
Just like for these companies that are spending, they're needing so much to get off the ground. Like, how does that work in your world?
Very few companies can make that work. And it takes an incredible founder who is a storyteller, a visionary, who could hire people and who could invent the future that doesn't exist. I am not smart enough to do that. I'm not electric enough. I'm not crazy enough. It's much easier to find a market and sell into that market than invent a new market. So for every Uber, there were probably 1,500 that didn't make it, or 2,000 who had like similar ideas. The strategy of losing money, and eventually making money just does not work anymore. And the reason is because we're at scale with internet technologies. We're at scale with AI. You could tap into it with zero, right? Like it cost me $1 million a year to buy a database for golf.com from Oracle. How much does it, to use any of these cloud databases, even Amazon Web Services? Nothing, right? And so find a product that has a market and that if you want to have a venture business will grow, and focus on it every day, week, quarter, month, year, right? And over 3 years, 5 years, you can build something big. Trying to invent something is hard. And I've seen Mark Pincus do it at Zynga, Walter at Scopely do it directly. Mark's one of our investors, and obviously Travis and Airbnb and all these ones. Maybe 10 out of 100,000 that tried it. Having said that, anyone who wants to try it, I love you, and I hope it works, and I'll support you.
Do these companies need to hit all 6 on the go gauge for you and Kass to pull the trigger, or have there been ones that have came through the door where you're like, 4 of 6, but this person's crazy, and I'm bought into this person's vision?
So the person is not on the go gauge because that's a given.
Okay, they're great.
Has
to be great.
And we wrote this for entrepreneurs, and so it's hard for me to say like you're not an entrepreneur. You are. We believe everyone's born an entrepreneur. And then you go through this normalization process where you lose your creativity. And like high school is like, sit down, shut up, memorize this shit, right? And then you go to get a job and they're like, why are you different? I'm not. I went to Harvard and I did everything I was supposed to do. And we don't hire people from Harvard because of that. And it's all about what have you done? And a lot of young people haven't done anything. And my biggest advice is like, if you want to be an entrepreneur, do something, do it. Like whatever it is. Could be a lemonade stand, could be a dropship business, could be flipping VFriends cards.
Is there one element in the Go Gauge system that you find is a typical blind spot for early founders?
Sales and marketing. Because we work with a lot of technical co-founders, just who we are. And they haven't thought about marketing. And if you don't have a strategy to partner with influencers, to get distribution, to become like in the cultural icon of whatever your market is, it's going to be hard for us to get around it.
You mentioned distribution. So like, tell me what it took for these guys.
That's why we did it with Liquid Death, is because we looked at like distribution as just marketing, direct to consumer.
Okay.
And then we weighed like a 6-pack and we're like, oh my God, sending these through the mail is hard and expensive. Let's get in stores.
We tried selling merch.
Oh yeah, tell about
and
this.
we lost so much money on just the shipping because we were like, oh, the hoodies cost £1. It's out. They actually cost £2.5.
It was
great.
great.
We're gonna
Like we
eat
sent
that
some
money.
to the UK. It was like $60. I'm like, we're just gonna eat that.
Yeah.
Love you guys. Hope you
That
really.
sounds like our book tour. Like
You
I'm
really
sending
like this
books. Yeah, like 20 VC got a $180 book that I sent him. The marketing is number one blind spot, because you're so in love with the idea. You're just like, everyone's going to need this. They're just going to show up. And then you launch and it's like crickets. I experienced it yesterday. I was like, we're doing this book signing at Barnes & Noble. We have to market it, because I was really nervous. Like, we're going to be the only author to have 0 people. And so we showed up and there's like a line. I'm like, yes.
Let's go.
But it wasn't by accident, right? And then the other thing about distribution is you don't have to have it figured out, but you have to know either how you are going to approach it or that you don't know it, like Mike Lazerow. And you have to be honest that you know what you don't know. And so he said, listen, I'm not a water guy. Like, I worked for VaynerMedia and Netflix, and we knew that he was just an incredible marketer. And he was like, I'm cool with building around me. I just want to do the marketing. And that's what Liquid Death is known for.
Yeah.
And the product has to be good. Like, the Liquid Death product is great.
Yeah, it's great. You can't beat it. We were saying that too with, drink brands, because we've been hunting for like a drink brand sponsor, and it's like, man, it doesn't get off the shelf if this drink isn't good. Like, we had gotten potential one that had sent us, and it was like caffeine, but it was terrible. And I'm like, dude, we're gonna put this across from people. It's not good. Like, people aren't gonna drink it, and then it's weird. Like, you're just like, what is that random drink?
Maybe Mike Lazerow will look at this.
Yeah, maybe Mike will give it a go.
He looked at some of my content when I sent it to him.
That's what I'm talking about.
I love the commercial, man. The Super Bowl commercial with the kids drinking it.
It's so far. The one they just did with Kylie Kelsey, that was a good one.
They're all good.
Yeah.
Because he thinks in headlines. He doesn't market without saying what is going to be written in Adweek, Ad Age, New York Times about this. So, like, Fat Zach's sweat campaign.
Yeah.
What tastes better, the kind of licking sweat off of the comedian Fat Zach's back, or Liquid Death? That came out of someone commenting, like, this tastes worse than back sweat. So he's like, let's do a taste test, right? Like, it's just brilliant marketing coupled with distribution. And if you look at his team, he brought in people who've done this, from Hard Mike's Lemonade to, like, Sam Adams, to real companies.
You ended up actually pivoting the revenue model 4 times for Buddy Media. And I'm so curious. So we ended up as software as a service, as a SaaS. What did those initial conversations look like when you'd walk into Kass, into her office, and be like, hey, we got to switch again?
Well, we kind of knew we had to.
Okay.
So when you launch something and it sucks or no one shows up, you have 3 things you can do. You can keep doing what's not working. You could shut down the company, or you could find something new. We like the third. We recommend other people don't do 1 and 2 if you have resources. If you don't have resources, maybe you should shut it down, but we don't think that is really something that you should be thinking about. Like, you shouldn't be thinking about shutting down till the day after you shut down. Like, if you're thinking about shutting down the business, it's like it's not going to end well. And so we launched some stuff which I blame myself, which were bad. One was Ace Bucks. This was a currency that sat on top of Facebook that you could earn by playing games and burn through our store. It was like the worst of Venezuela currency, like hyperinflation every day with stuff that sucked to buy. So it was like, people are like, why? The biggest lesson is then I'd show up to brands and I'd be like, hey, you want to use Ace Bucks? Like, yeah, no, like, that's stupid, but we need to figure this out. So then we got one step closer, which is building custom apps. Anyone who used the InStyle Hollywood hair makeover app, tried Jennifer Aniston's hair on your face, send it to a friend, right? Or the FedEx, app where you could send FedEx a birthday message to a friend, which would be like a virtual gift, right? Those were great, but not scalable. And so Kass, the operator, said, listen, if we continue this, we're just a service company. We need to find something else. And she told me and the salesperson we were selling a lot of these. And that's when we productized it. And instead of like these custom apps, we built a platform that offered like saplets. So saplets were drag and drop, could then create apps off of that. And then it was 3 years, 50 million in recurring revenue in the sale. So when you get it right, you know it. When you don't get it right, you oftentimes tell yourself stories that you got it right.
Yeah.
Just rip off the Band-Aid and pivot.
Do you believe every business in any niche can reach 9 figures?
No.
No. Okay.
And I think most won't. I think we're in the best time to build vertical AI apps, and very few will be venture-backed companies, meaning 100 million or more exit. I think most will be, the ones that succeed will be great businesses. They may do 5, 10, 20 million a year in revenue, throw off profit. A friend of mine has one in, the karaoke space that supports his life. He does very little. And I think that's a great way to go. If you want to be a venture-backed company, you just got to raise a lot of money, build, and build out infrastructure, which is not the world we live in today. Why do we want to launch pizza places? Demand's created. People love pizza. Sell them fucking pizza. So many kids I meet, we talk to so many young people. They're like, oh, all the ideas are taken. I'm like, dude, this is water in a can. Have you seen Pop-Up Bagel? Yeah. Have you seen Van Leeuwen ice cream? We're still reinventing the building blocks of life, water. So for you to say there are no ideas, get the fuck out of here.
Yeah.
You're not gonna, succeed.
I'd love to role play a little bit. Let's say you bring up pizza, right? Let's say there is a pizza shop and they're doing maybe $400,000 to $500,000 a year. What does it take to scale a business like a pizza shop from maybe 400,000 to 500,000 to over $1 million and then potentially multi-million?
And the product's great. It's a great product. They don't need help on their product.
Yeah. So, there are two ways. There's the operations. How do you streamline your operations? Are you working with Slice, a leader's company that will help you with that? And the more important way is just creative marketing. And so I'll give away why we want to do pizza places. You could open up a pizza place and it'll be fine. If you offer every company within a mile a free pizza lunch for your people and the ability to put your menus throughout the office, that's going to generate business, right? So I love the free idea, free entrepreneur advice in Central Park. Sampling has worked forever. Most pizza places don't work for the corporate business, meaning they don't ask for the deal. They don't say, I would love to host your pizza party, right? Most pizza places aren't that busy at lunch. And to do a pizza party at noon, you're making them all at 11 where no one's in there asking for pizza, right? So that's one idea, that just focus on 1, 2, 3 things that can move the needle, right? We only did really 3 things for this book. We made personal, in terms of marketing, personal asks, podcasts, and speaking at events. And yes, we're bringing value at the events, but the end is basically, if you buy the book, you'll build the confidence that we built and you'll have a whole new life, right? It's this whole inspirational thing of it's a 50 cheat codes that we wish we'd known and would have fast forward through all of the bullshit stories that are in the book of us failing. The book is fail, 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 yay.
Yeah. So you would say that marketing is just the number one thing that causes a business to scale?
Yeah, people don't know how to market.
Yeah.
Go talk to a lawyer. Go talk to most business, there are 5 million businesses created, right? 20% were created by couples. Why couples? They don't have money for employees, right? So it's a family thing. It's Gary's business when it started with the wine business. His dad, it's hey, 13-year-old, come, I need help, right? And just because you know how to make the shoes doesn't mean that you could run the store or sell shoes, right? Get people to show up. And I think figure out how to market. And I was just talking to a wine, I'm not going to name the one, but an entrepreneur who has a big wine store on Long Island, and he's just not doing enough events. He's not calling law firms and saying, let's do a wine tasting. He's not showing up at all the taste of events. He's not asking for loyalty. He doesn't have a rewards program. I don't know. Does that double the business? Maybe not. But if you could get 10% growth every year for 7 years, you're doubling your business.
Is there something that you notice that founders get wrong when they're trying to scale? When they're busting at the seams, they know that they need to hire someone, they know they need to bring someone on. What do you notice they make the mistakes on? Because you've mentored so many founders.
So the good news about scaling, like we don't want you to scale up until you're literally bursting at the seams. So we don't want like this whole thing of like, oh, raise the money you're going to need in 2 years. Like no, like don't hire another salesperson until every one of your salespeople are like over quota.
Back to back,
right?
Every single
They're
person.
like, and then it's like, oh, we're leaving money on the table. So we need to bring people on. So the biggest mistake on scaling is scaling too fast. So many entrepreneurs, like I hire all these people and it's like, I just have expenses.
Yeah.
And this, the entrepreneur I was talking about earlier, like had moved into like beautiful store and had hired associates and hired biz dev people to get out there and they just weren't doing it, right? He just layered expenses and not revenue. And going forward, I just think that you should be able to measure everything. And that's what like AI data lets you do. We own cash flow businesses. One's an executive search firm, primarily in the medical space, but also does nonprofit. And a producer's output, so an executive recruiter, their output is directly related to how many outbound calls they did. So when someone says, I had a bad month, I'm like, okay, let's look at your calls. You had a bad month because you didn't build the pipeline, not because the market's soft. And so usually there are inputs that you can measure. Like we haven't looked at like the numbers for the book because there's nothing we can really do in terms of the list, like USA Today lists. We're just doing what the inputs we think are going to get us there. We probably won't get there. The irony is this could very well be a failure. Like we're cool with that, but we're not going to fail because we're not putting in the time and effort and the focus.
I would argue though, it doesn't matter how many you sell. In my opinion, I understand that you're going after like the legacy play, but I think in my mind, right, like the way we think about the podcast is like, if we can just help one person, incredible. I feel like if even just one person reads the book and takes something from it, like that's a huge win.
And already you've sold so many copies that are going to impact people. I mean, people are going to listen to this, put it into their business, buy a copy of the book. Like that, I mean, that's priceless.
Hopefully. And if you do, let me know. And we have the Founders Farm community, which we meet every 2 weeks and we're like entrepreneurs helping each other out like with stuff. And now like selling to each other. We have entrepreneurs, like one guy who makes like signs. He's like sold 4 signs.
Wow.
And so you need to have goals that matter. Do we really care about the number we sell? Like, no, it's not like a business. You don't make money selling books. But why do it if people don't read it?
Sure.
So for us, it's like, for us, the next 50 years is about impact and money to a certain extent. We're capitalists. We like making money. It's just like what we do. But the impact is directly related to how many people know about it. Like,
yeah, that's fair.
Which is why I think that you've done an awesome job of getting on social. Like that's so cool to see. You don't have to do that. Which I respect a ton. And I think it is the way that you're going to sell more of the books.
I appreciate that. And I also would encourage everyone listening to like get over their fear of doing social. Gary, for many years, was like, you got to get back to it. Like you have a point of view, you engage with people in ways that people like, you're like vulnerable. I don't know if it's like my cross eyes or bad heart or whatever, but it's like, we went silent for 10 years and we worked really hard the last 18 months. We should have never gone silent. We should have continued to stay out there. So if you're listening to this and thinking like, oh, I don't want to be in camera, I'm not good in camera. Kass hated it for the first 20 videos. Now she doesn't even think about it.
She's great on camera, which is
she's great.
I
love her. Yeah. I love her, obviously. But I love her on camera.
I love her because she's good on camera.
No, I love her on camera, but the first 20, like go back and look at our first videos, we were too overproduced. She was wearing too much makeup. I would like comb my hair. It would look so stupid. I've never done that. I wear a hat or like messed up. And eventually it's like, let's just like be who we are. Like it is what it is.
Yeah.
Like And if people like it, great. If they don't, whatever.
Kosta and I were talking. I came into Kosta's room when we were prepping for both of the interviews, like your interview and Gary's interview. And I'm like, I'm not going to New York if I don't post every fucking day until we go. I'm not going to have Gary say, what are you guys doing on Facebook? I'm like, I'm going to have our account be posted on Facebook. So he's like, all right, what do you guys have? I'm like,
well, it's interesting because we did the Central Park thing the day before we did Gary's podcast. And we kind of did that because we know it would make him proud. We knew that like asking for the business, going to talk to people, and the first thing he did was like, wait, were you guys in Central Park? Like, were those your kids? Because we don't want to put all the kids' faces on. So it's just like a bunch of like 20-year-old kids. Like, no, those are like real. This wasn't staged. He's like, oh my God, that's like shit I would do. So it's, get out of your, lean into the pain. Too often we lean into the comfort, like, oh, that's a little uncomfortable. I'm going to go like watch Netflix, whatever, right? As an entrepreneur, the pain is where it's at. Like if you're having pain around there are others, and maybe you solve that pain. Or if it's painful, maybe there's a reason. And if you do it, others won't, and you'll get noticed, right? So it's that pain is like, we kind of like maybe a little too much. Like this week has just been like nuts. And Kass is like, you're not working hard enough. I'm like, what? Like, what else can I do?
the calendar's stacked.
Yeah, I'm like, she's like, it's 10 o'clock. Like, we're not watching Netflix. Go, make a few more, text a few more people.
Grinding.
Yeah, but that's that. Like when we're in it,
yeah.
It's like, and I appreciate that. It's not her nagging. It's like, yeah, you're right. Let's go. Like, there's always another call to make.
Do you feel like you two push one another a lot?
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah.
And not only push, like, in a very direct way like that, the idea of letting down Kass and not doing what I say I'm going to do is one of my big stressors. So we're hosting pre-prom for our daughter tomorrow night, and even though I don't drink, I'm in charge of alcohol. And like, I'm stressed out. Like, if I don't get this right, like alcohol with like senior prom, like they're only allowed to have one drink in their house. We're trying to keep it responsible.
Yeah.
But they're going to college, so we got to desensitize it. Like, that is like a stressful thing of like, not that it's Vivi, our daughter. It's like, oh man, I got to deliver for Kass.
Yeah.
If you have a partner that you guys are very different, right? And if you have different skill sets, different like strengths, and then can trust each other to do what you say you're going to do, like, it's magic. Like, you guys are married.
Yeah.
How's it like to work with your husband?
It's been great, honestly. I think we just do different things, and it's the reason why I think the show's able to happen.
He does all the cooking, you do all the laundry.
I do all the laundry. Exactly. He cooks the meals, and I clean the pots.
Yeah.
And it's the best when you're like, if I had to operate a company and remember all the details, I wouldn't do this. I wouldn't be an operator.
See, my other business partner, Sharif, in my agency where we make social stuff for brands, Sharif is like he's like the operator. I'm like the ideas guy. I come up with the ideas. He's in the spreadsheets. He's sending all these invoices out, producing our shoots that we're doing for these brands. I'm like, I could never do your job. Like, I could not do this. And like, I'll edit the spots sometime. I'll oversee the creative stuff. And it's like having someone that does everything that I can't do or like can't do well has changed everything. Because the first business I ever did in college failed, and we were two videographers. It was so stupid.
Yeah.
And we thought, in my head, the young guy in me was like, double the money. Like, we're gonna make double the money. We do the same thing. Like, we can actually kill this. And we were both doing well by ourselves, and it just crashed and burned.
You needed like a sales guy.
Yeah, we needed a salesperson.
An operation.
It just crashed and burned. And I didn't realize it until probably like 6 months after. I'm like, why did this not work? Like, what was wrong with like this idea? And it's like, it's part of the journey though. Now I know. Like, now I know what I'm looking for.
Golf.com, we needed a engineer. So we had a third co-founder, Michael Casper, great guy, still friend. And so you pick partners who complement you. And my biggest mistake, Shape Matrix, we never really had the conversations. It was really like ego on my side that led to a failed business that we talk about in the book.
I'd love to hype up Kass because she's not here. How pivotal has she been in your guys' success, and what do you feel like makes her such a great entrepreneur?
So I think she's 57% related to the success. like responsible. I'm maybe 30, and then there are other people. And this hit me Monday night. We had 300 people, 190 entrepreneurs at the New York Stock Exchange. They hosted Celebration of Entrepreneurs presented by Stifel Bank. And I'm very cheap, so we sold a sponsorship. And after the event, people felt so seen and loved. And what did she do? Okay, you showed up, and if you're an entrepreneur, you got a gold name tag. If not, you were silver. It didn't have your title. It said like what your best like project or trait was. So one of our friends, a New York Times author, he would or award-winning. He would never put on like New York Times best-selling author, but Kass, for every one of these people, got their unique thing, right? You then had, if you're an entrepreneur, you got a shovel that was gold versus silver if you weren't, right? Gold shovels, you could go to these carnival games, and she got this like inflatable poop that you have to throw through these holes, and you would win prizes. Now, when you go to these corporate events, most people think like the prizes are like whatever, a backpack from these.
From the bank. Backpack.
There was like $1,000 Nobu gift card.
Oh, wow.
There were massages. There were full spa days. There were 150 gifts because we knew that not all the entrepreneurs would do it. And when people walked out, there were Krispy Kreme donuts.
God, I love some Krispy Kreme.
Now, she never had a bat mitzvah. She's Italian, Roman Catholic growing up. This was her way of like programming something for all these entrepreneurs to celebrate them, to say, I see you, right? One of our friends runs a stationery company that's gotten pretty big. You could do like monogram stationery. She shows up and she's an entrepreneur, right? She'd never thought of herself as an entrepreneur. And I said to her after, I'm like, that event, the warmth, how everyone saw themselves, how they were seen, was the first thing we'd done in a while that felt like a buddy media event where employees would come and they'd get the same treatment, right? And with Kass, it's not just what you do, it's how you feel. And she's really like tuned into how people are feeling and how to create this environment, which leads to like her cult-like culture. Like she's all about like, let's create a cult that is for good, like a positive cult. And you only do that through these like rituals and symbols and making people feel like, oh, you're looking into my soul. Like, you know who I am. You see me. And people like, what's interesting about companies is people love being a part of something bigger and they want to be unique. So I want to be a part of this and feel like I'm just like everyone else, but I want people to see that I have like a mohawk and that I am expressing myself. So to be the same and unique. And I think that's what Kass is really good at the company. You feel part of this like community, but we know what your goals are. Oh, you want to start a business? So we're going to move you around so you see everything. You want to be a CEO? Okay, let's go. Let's like start on the management track. Your goal is to go from a developer to like a developer of engineers. You now have a 3-person team after you prove that you've done your job. And her saying was, do the job you want and do the job you have and the one you want, to show that there's like you're growing. And like that type of stuff in a company has been lost in hybrid work and frankly management styles that have lost a lot of the humanity. And Kass is the best at that.
What have you observed from how Kass manages people? What can people take and put into their companies that really helped you guys be successful?
So transparency is
okay.
number one. And she forced me to hear. I'm always like, let's shine the turd. I don't want the turd on the table. Like, I don't like bad news. So, I'd say, hey, we got this huge customer. And Kass would be like, yeah, but we missed our numbers by 50%. I don't care, right? So that transparency with yourself and your company, they know when things are going well and not well. And so that's number one. Number two is that empathy part. Like she's so good at listening to all of the management team, because you get to a point where hundreds of employees, you don't do it for everyone. But your leading is showing others how to lead. Like if you're a screamer at home, your kids are going to scream at their kids, right? No matter what you say. They don't listen to anything you say, but they mimic everything you do. And we know that. Like now that our kids are like fully baked, 18 is the youngest. And the lessons that I've learned from Kass is basically it's okay to be human at work. Like she was breastfeeding Viv at work. Like she is okay with bad news. It's just she's not okay with people lying and not being transparent. And it's just something that has been harder for me, but for her, it's, she's a leader. She's a born leader.
What were the first few hires, like the first key hires that you guys made for Buddy Media? And we talked to Gary a little bit about hiring, and I asked him about hiring like, A players versus B or C players. And he was just like,
That's funny.
I'd rather have a B player that's just fucking down for the cause. Do you feel like the same way, or do you feel like it's...
Same exact way.
Okay.
But what he's saying about B player is credentials.
Yeah.
You can't survive in VaynerMedia, VaynerX, in his orbit if you're not awesome. So it was like a gut shot when Dustin left, right? But I know Dustin so well, 7 years. He was like the main videographer for all Gary's stuff, but he also wanted to grow and move on, which is totally understandable. I don't think you would say on his resume when he started 7 years ago that he's an A player, right? But he was so committed to learning, to the beginner's mind, to doing anything that needed done. And that's why I've been very vocal of like Oswego over Harvard, right? Like Fresno State over Yale. College athletes over overly educated college kids, right? Like military over management consulting. Like these are people who know how to work as a team. They know how to communicate. They know how to commit. And when someone who has been the captain of the Northwestern field hockey team comes to us and she's like, I want a job. Like, yes, you want a national championship, like without any fanfare. No one knows this. You led a team. You practice like crazy. You're in the gym at 6 a.m. And so when you say you want to work here, and if you do half of what you did there here, yes. And I think that's what Gary's saying. Their performance is A+++. Who they are on paper is like a C.
How would you keep people coming back hungry? Because I feel like a big thing that I've noticed from people who are in jobs is it gets really stagnant. You do the same thing. You're not growing. And it just kind of makes people stop because they're like, what am I doing working so hard if I'm not moving up? Or maybe there's a role that opens up, hire someone from another place. You're like, I'm here, I'm working super hard. Or they think they're working super hard, Like how do you kind of keep that fire in the culture that you guys had within that company?
So not everyone wants to grow.
Yeah.
Like some people are like, I have a family, I want to work 9 to 5, I do this, and that's cool.
And would you find that out early? Would you kind of try to figure out people's like initiatives and be like, do you want to leave, or do you, is that you want to make a business one day?
Sometimes.
Okay.
Sometimes you don't know because everyone's a great salesperson when they're interviewing, right? So it's
True.
like they'll say what they want, but Kass is very good. And for the first 100 people, they all interviewed with Kass. Then it's kind of, she can't do it. What's interesting is like people have a growth mentality or they don't. A lot of young people who we hired who've now gone on to like far exceed us. Like I look at like Miles Klieger, who was a client. He then joined as a salesperson, then a sales manager. He grew Braze to a $5 billion business, right? Or Wayne Slavin at Sure Insurance. Like they had never done this. You recognize that. Like you recognize that these are people who like are on a mission, and you basically do what you can to like help them grow, knowing that they're gonna escape your orbit at some point, which is totally cool. Like when someone said, I want to go start a company, great. Can we invest? How can we help? You have to have conversations that map out their journey. If employees feel that they're pigeonholed and if there's no room for growth, then they're just not going to stay. And Kass has the exact number, but I think like 70% of all of our promotions were from inside.
That's awesome.
Wow.
Even like the biggest one, which is Jeff Ragavan, joined as a salesperson, became chief revenue officer, did such a good job. We named him a co-founder.
Wow.
We couldn't imagine our business without him.
Why did you feel like, I feel like a lot of people with their business, they're like 100%, this is what it is. This is ours. You guys had given away percentage of it. Obviously, you had to raise money. You had to raise $100 million for Buddy Media. How do you kind of decide when you and Kass were starting it, like what percentage should we keep versus what percentage do we have to like give away to actually make this thing like what we think it can be?
Yeah, so give equity if people are going to value equity. Everyone in our company had equity. I tell other founders that if someone doesn't want equity, they're not going to value it. It's too valuable. Like, don't give it away. Number two is there is kind of a formula for this.
Okay.
So if you're a venture-backed company or if you're a growth company, tech company, you're going to start with 10, 15% in an option pool. All that means is they've been approved by shareholders. They've been authorized to give away. The board will approve any individual grant. Typically, C levels are at the 1% range, and then it goes down from there. We love equity because it's the best way to do like financial incentives that align everyone. And it also feels the best. Like Abby Lauterbach started with us right out of NYU. She's now senior sales executive at LinkedIn. At 26 years old, like she makes kind of life-changing money, right? Like, do you know how great that feels?
Yeah. Wow.
Like,
I don't know how good I can imagine.
I mean, for the person, not for her.
Yeah.
She may not even think about it. I mean, like,
Yeah.
to see her grow.
Yes.
And to know that it's like she's set.
And I'll know that for the rest of my life.
Yeah.
And, you had like, I don't know if you saw like Dave's Hot Chicken sold yesterday.
Yeah.
And there were like 20,
Yeah.
like 20 millionaires who
Three dudes started with
Yeah.
like a little tiny stand in
Crazy.
a plastic table.
like, if you make money
for
with
them.
people you love,
Yeah.
it's fucking awesome.
yeah.
And if you lose money with people you love, whatever, you're all in it together, right? It's not like there's no guarantees, but some of our most fond memories are like telling people what's happening and what it means for them after they shoveled so much shit to make us look good.
Yeah.
Like we got all the credit, they did all the work. Not all of it, but maybe 90% of it.
Gary just calls you and he's like, hey, like I want to start this company.
So Gary says, I mean, he had a pitch, and his pitch is I'm 34. I've worked for my dad since I was 13. I've never made more than 100,000 a year. I have no money. I have a concept for an agency that will do for other brands what I did with this wine library, which was my dad's store. Dad's first generation doesn't believe in like giving away equity. Didn't have a fight, but he was just like respected it. I don't have money for an office space. Can I use your conference room? At first I thought he was just like, oh, for a meeting or something. I'm like, sure. He's like, oh no, for the office. Like, can I take it? And he moved in AJ, Marcus, and a bunch of like goofballs.
Wow.
And the only reason he left, we didn't kick him out. He had way too many people. We had a surprise visit. It was a very old building because it's the only one we could afford. And the fire department came and they looked in there. They're like, is this like, are these like Iraqi refugees? Like what? This is like a homeless camp. Is this
Oh my God.
like a bunch of young people not dressed well, just on laptops? Like it looked like a sweatshop.
Oh my God.
And the fire department says, I'm going to come back tomorrow. And if this is here, you guys are all in trouble.
Wow.
I'm like, okay.
We found a new office.
Yeah. I think it took like a week, but
Wow.
yeah, we loved having him here.
That's
Well, I loved it. Kass, he'd walk into Kass' office like, Kass is really good at ping pong, like really good. She played professional tennis. She's incredible at pickleball. Like, Kass, we got to play ping pong. And Kass like, I'm on a call. And he'd just be like, come on now, like we got to go. I only have 10 minutes. And so it was fun. It was like really like we think about those days and like going to South by and like selling together. Like it was just fun. Like it was just a lot of hope, a lot of energy. Yeah, we had an event. He's starting to get his name. We're like, hey, we're doing this thing at Hill Country Barbecue. Like we don't have money for a speaker. We need you to get on stage, just do something. And he's like, I got it. Like, no problem.
No pitch, no prep.
I still can't believe
he's the best speaker. He doesn't have slides or anything.
He'll just freeball the speech.
It's incredible.
It's insane.
How did you guys meet in the first place?
Social media was small, and we had an employee of ours who was very close with him, and the employee had reached out, and he kind of thought the business looked cool, and then he wrote me.
Oh, wow.
And I knew about him because he had just gone on Conan O'Brien's show.
Sniffed his armpits, that one.
Sniffed his armpits and ate dirt on TV.
He said he sniffed it to get his odor palette up. Dude, he was on some shit.
Yeah, and like Conan O'Brien was like, this guy.
This guy's
and
crazy.
He was Gary was so awesome and like so grounded. But when he wants to be crazy, he can. And, and he's like, I'm shooting my shot. Yeah. I'm going to go on Conan and the world's going to know
it. Damn.
Wait, okay, so speaking of Conan, late night, one of your roommate in college was Seth Myers?
Yeah, still, one of my best friends, Vivi's godfather.
Was that like a random pairing?
So it wasn't random in the sense, yes, it was random. We were, freshman year, we show up and our rooms were right next to each other. Neither of us loved our roommate. And we hung out a lot. We had a lot of fun. His roommate played the trombone in the marching band, and I played his trombone on our hall. I would just walk down our hall until one day his roommate came back seeing me, and I was like, I had like the Northwestern hat, like I dressed, and he'd never granted me permission. And I think that put over the top, they needed a breakup, and I kind of wanted to break up. And so we eventually, rushed the same fraternity, and we had a lot of fun. We weren't what they call like cool. Like we made ourselves laugh. Like we're kind of dorky. He loved the Red Sox. I remember the Red Sox lost, and he locked himself in his room for a day, sitting in the dark on the floor.
Oh God!
I'm like, this guy.
This guy's nuts.
He's still like that with the Steelers. And then we lived together when we graduated. He was a very successful waiter at the Twisted Lizard in Chicago, great Mexican place. I don't know if it exists. I was working for my company, Wire, and then I met Kass a year later. Kass would stay in our apartment. That apartment was 3 bedrooms and a closet. I had the closet. I had no windows or air, and I love flannel sheets. So Kass is like, this isn't working. We have to move. You got to move out and let's move in together. She moved from DC, we moved in. And so my last roommate technically before Kass was Seth Myers.
That feels like the time period we're both in right now. You should see our spot.
But it's the best. I've
loved it. I've loved every minute of it. It's like, it's a studio. We live in a studio, but we're ready and excited to have our own spaces. And like, I can't wait to build out an office.
Yeah. I literally just moved out like a couple days ago. In with my girlfriend.
We're about to be office guys. We cannot wait.
I loved it. I mean, like, I loved that time. Mm-hmm. It wasn't just Seth. It was, Brian and Derek. Brian was management consultant. He was never there. Derek was sold insurance. Now he runs Arthur J. Gallagher's commercial insurance company, which is like a public. He's like a real person. We call him the insurance commander. So if you ever need to be saved by insurance, call Derek.
Give him a ring.
I don't know if he does like personal, but if you need anything insurance, call Derek Vandervoort.
Okay.
And we support each other. Like what's cool is like I've seen Seth go from waiter to 1 to 2 person show, Hiccups and Pickups, to being rejected by Second City, to going to Amsterdam, to being in Boom Chicago where they discovered him. I've seen him try to act on SNL. He's an awful actor. He's great if he's Seth Myers, but if he tries to do anything else. But he's really a writer. And so I was very nervous when I asked him to read the book early. Not because I want him to read it, but I want him to promote it. He has like 5 million followers. And he liked it, and he agreed to provide me a recommendation. And then what was cool is 2 days ago, he actually publicly posted, which
I saw it.
It's hard to ask it's really, we just have a relationship.
Yeah.
So it's hard for us to ask for stuff. And so the fact he did that, those are friends. Those are your real friends.
Mm-hmm. Yesterday we had a moment. We got together with Tyler Babin, and we were on the roof of their office. You can see this, like we're in the middle of New York. You see the Empire State Building. We're eating pizza. And I remember like, must have been 4 years ago that we met Babin. And I just remember like sitting there and like having this moment, like how cool is this that like so much has changed since we first met and we're kind of just catching up, you know, and we just feel like we're doing it. And it was awesome. Have you had those types of moments with somebody like a Seth or a Gary where you guys are, you know, eating pizza or something and you're just kind of reminiscing on, wow, I can't believe we're here?
Yes. I mean, all the time. And the reason is because the people you surround yourself with now are the same people you're going to go back to for advice and hang out with and create together. So did I know when Gary showed up that we would have a wine business, Empathy Wines, together? We co-own a pickleball team, the New Jersey Fives. I'm an investor in the VFriends company, right? He made money off Buddy Media. He supports us. He's sold, I would say without Gary, this book, no chance of being a success. He did a 3-hour live stream. It's hard to get him for a 10-minute podcast.
Yeah.
I sat in his office and I teared up. And of course, Kass is like, there he goes again. Mike's crying. Do you have to tell like the world? And it like hit me hard that here we went from like our little conference room. He's now welcoming us to this full floor Hudson Yards doing a 3-hour thing.
I can't believe you guys went for 3 hours.
It was so fun.
That
and
is
then
so fun.
What's cool is like on Monday, Harlan Cohen, who does Help Me Harlan, he really helps college kids with like dating and roommate advice. And I helped him. I was like, I syndicated him through my news service, introduced him. He just reminded me this to Peterson that publishes his books. We've been working together since I was 21. And now he's like New York Times bestseller and like a huge following. And, you know, your friends and the people you help are the people in your life. And I just can't emphasize enough that you cannot be transactional. Like, you have to show up saying, how can I help? Like, I showed up today, like, okay, what are the stories? How do I make this interesting? Like, I'm trying not to talk about the book because like fucking no one cares. Like, I care about the book. Buy the book on Amazon. But that's not what makes it interesting, right? And so you have to show up giving. Give. That's the only way stuff that will eventually start coming back. And I look at people like DJ Ski that I mentored. I have VCs who were like their first fund who are now like super rich and successful. I have a lot who are failures. I still love them, but
not as much, but
they're not as fun. Those poor people. No, it's, you know, it's just, life is who you surround yourself with, and you never know.
Yeah.
And you never know who you're going to need. Like, you know, I've had some medical stuff that if it weren't for some friends, it's like, oh man, like that doesn't go well.
If you could go back and talk to your 18-year-old self before you built UWire, before you went on to start Buddy Media, Shape Matrix, and all of these awesome things and write this incredible book sitting in front of me, what would you tell yourself before you went on the journey?
I wish I had learned the kind of destructive power of fear. Like, I was very fearful. Like, I had ulcers like in high school. When I almost died, I came out of that surgery like with my heart, my new valve and my new heart. And my mom at least says I was a new person. I was like chill, great outlook. And I remember being happy. I'm like, fuck, I'm alive. Like, that's cool. And before that was a little later. At 18, I was just like, I was in a hurry. I was stressed out. I wanted to get to work. I didn't like college. When you are scared of stuff, when you're fearful, when you have these thoughts, it leads to just bad decisions and a lot of uncertainty. You doubt yourself. And at the end of the day, most of the stuff we fear, like, it's just like the boogeyman, right? Other than sharks, I'm very afraid of sharks.
Sharks are your buddy.
I know, but it's not like an intellectual thing. It's like just a fear.
Okay,
It's like a something I can't help it. Like, but getting eaten by a shark is not great. And I also don't like dementia. I'm a little scared of that. That's like the worst thing. That getting eaten by a shark would be quick, so it's probably not as bad as dementia.
Shark ain't gonna get you. They want to be your buddy.
That's what people say, but I feel like I'm delicious.
You just gotta stay on the boat or stay on the sand. You know?
Yeah, but people say that to go in the water, which I've started doing. And we used to have a place in Turks and Caicos, and the only reason is because it was clear water. I'm like, at least if I get eaten, I'll see it coming. But I think the fear part is just so disastrous. And I even think about the most important, like there's a most important moment of my life. Like would have spiraled in a whole different direction. And I'm at a wedding and I see Kass. She was a tennis player, like long legs, like this red dress. I'm like, fuck, like hot. She went to Ivy League school. I got rejected by 5 Ivies. She's like working. She's interested in the internet. I'm told by friends. And I was sweating my ass off. I'm like, there's no way I'm asking that broad. Why did I say broad? In my slacks to dance. And I walked over like sweaty, and she felt my hand, and it was like, and I'm like, will you dance with me? And she said yes. I'm kind of like tearing up here. Like imagine like this schmuck's life if that doesn't happen. And everyone has something that if they just get over that fear, maybe like, and you know what happens when you aren't on your phone, you look up and talk to people, like good stuff, right? It's called networking. Young people are like, what's networking? It's fucking get off your phone and just talk to people, anyone. And that moment, I was so riddled with fear. But I still don't know why. And then the next weekend, she's like, why don't you come to DC? I'm in Chicago. And I'm like, oh, I can't do that. Even though I haven't told anyone, but we kind of hooked up that night, that first night. Sorry, Kass, you're not here. And in a very innocent way. It was very lovely. But yeah, she's like, come to DC. And I was like really nervous. And I didn't have money. I remember looking, Southwest had a $45 flight into Baltimore. I'm like, it's a sign. $45, that's like less than like my beer tab at like Barleycorns in Chicago. And it was just an awesome weekend. Like, I mean, you probably had dates or where it's just like, something's there. Went back to Chicago and I had kind of someone I was dating. I'm like, listen, I gotta check this out with this other broad. And fear, like I was so riddled. So that's my only thing that I wish I knew more of.
I love it, Mike. Thank you so much for coming on the show. Ladies and gentlemen, this has been episode 161. Go get yourself a copy of Shoveling Sht live on Amazon. It'll be the first link in the description. Drop us a comment, leave us a like, hit that subscribe button. We'll see you guys all next week. Peace.